Right. So you guys have probably heard about all this Doara and Ken stuff, right? Deleted YouTube channels and cryptic social media posts and
Oh,
lawsuits.
yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah, and you've come to the right place because we're going to really deep dive into their whole story using Doara's court filing as like our guide.
Oh, wow.
But by the end of this, you're going to understand how this like seemingly picture perfect influencer couple went from like building $1 million brand to battling it out in court.
It's really a fascinating case study. It just highlights not only all the incredible opportunities, but also the potential pitfalls when like your personal relationship and business get all intertwined,
Right.
especially in like the high stakes world of social media.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, speaking of high stakes,
Yeah.
let's set the scene a little bit here.
Yeah.
So back in 2014, Dara was an aspiring influencer,
Yeah.
was a small following, and Ken was working at Home Depot.
Wow.
Classic, started from the bottom story, right? But just 2 years later, they formalized their business as DK4L LLC, and their YouTube channel just took off.
It's crazy.
Yeah, brand deals, merch, even a spot in a blockbuster movie.
Wow.
They were living the influencer dream, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But, I mean, their rapid rise like that is a testament to just how savvy they were with their social media branding.
Exactly. And they created this like aspirational lifestyle image,
Yeah.
travel luxury, and above all, this seemingly perfect relationship.
Right.
And fans just totally ate it up.
Totally, yeah. And, here's where it gets interesting. They didn't just, like, build a channel. They built a brand.
Right.
Like, they trademarked DK4L.
Oh, wow.
They launched a dedicated fan group called the DK Gang and even started a second channel, Vlogs by DK4L.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because this wasn't just about, like, posting videos. It was about creating a whole ecosystem around their relationship.
Yeah. And that's a key insight here. They weren't just like selling themselves, they were selling this brand that was built on the image of their relationship.
Right.
And that becomes like their biggest asset, but then ultimately their greatest vulnerability.
Yeah, and speaking of vulnerability cracks started to appear, their first cheating scandal hit in 2016,
Oh, yeah.
which obviously like went viral, and for most couples that would be devastating.
Totally.
But Ken apologized publicly. They went to counseling and seemingly like patched things up.
Wow.
They even got engaged in 2019.
What?
So looking back, could they have handled that first scandal differently? Was the public apology the right move, or did it set a precedent that would come back to bite them?
It's a question worth considering because public apologies can be an effective way to manage a crisis,
Mm-hmm.
but they also put so much pressure on couples to like maintain this facade of reconciliation,
Yeah,
even if things aren't truly resolved behind the scenes.
right.
And in the world of influencer marketing, where authenticity is like currency, that can be a dangerous game.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Because their brand was built on this idea of their perfect relationship.
Ah.
So when the next cheating scandal hit in 2020, right in the middle of COVID lockdown,
Oh, wow.
it wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was a threat to their whole business.
It makes sense.
Yeah, and this time we see Diara taking on a much larger role. She starts creating solo content on their Vlogs by DK4L channel to kind of keep the revenue flowing.
Yeah.
While Ken is dealing with the fallout from everything, it suggests a really strong work ethic and a dedication to maintaining their brand, even in the middle of all this personal turmoil.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's interesting, right? Because around this time, DR is also landing her own like independent deals, Savage X Fenty, Fashion Nova brought in.
Oh, wow.
And she's killing it individually.
She's amazing.
Yet all the money that she's making is going into their joint DK4L account.
Wow, that just speaks volumes about the level of trust or maybe even dependence she still had in the partnership at that point. But it also lays the groundwork for all the financial disputes that come later.
Which are a huge part of why this story is so captivating.
Totally.
Because it's not just about like the drama of infidelity, it's about the business side of things unraveling.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to get into next.
Can't wait. So we left off with Dara like shouldering more and more of the responsibility for the business while also like really finding success on her own.
Right.
This sets the stage for this like power shift within their whole dynamic, both personally and professionally.
Yeah. And then boom, the third cheating scandal hits in May 2021.
Oh, geez.
This time, Ken is caught flirting with other women on a live stream.
On a live stream?
Yeah, on live stream. Jar finally says, okay, I've had enough, and leaves. But here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Ken initially acts like he doesn't want anything
Oh, really?
from their shared life.
Wow.
Moves out, gets a new car.
Interesting.
Almost seems like a classic power play, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if he doesn't seem to need the money or the brand, then it might make DR want to settle for less.
Exactly.
Less sense.
But then we find out he tried to collect payments from Diarra's personal brand deals behind her back.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and that's when the financial mess really starts to, unravel.
Oh, wow. This is where the happy couple facade totally shatters.
Right.
And it just becomes this, raw and messy battle over money and control.
So they try to reach an agreement after they split. Diarra, always the responsible one, pays off the loan on their shared Tesla and gets to keep the car.
Okay.
They agree to split whatever's left in the DK4L account, with Diarra getting a slightly larger share because she was the one keeping the business afloat.
Thanks.
Seems fair, right?
On the surface, yeah, it does. It just seems like a practical attempt to disentangle their finances.
Right.
But remember, this is a business that is built on an image.
Yeah.
The very act of them splitting up threatens the brand that they so carefully cultivated.
And then the bombshell. Diarra goes to pay some bills from the DK4L account, and it's practically empty.
Oh my gosh.
Ken had been siphoning funds long before their official split.
What?
He claims he needed it for medical bills, but the timing just doesn't add up.
Wow. This just lack of financial transparency is such a classic warning sign in any business partnership, let alone one that was built on a romantic relationship that has totally gone sour.
Yeah, it just speaks to this, fundamental breakdown of trust.
Exactly.
You can't imagine them ever reconciling after that.
No.
And then comes the decision that, shocked everybody.
What's that?
They agreed to delete their YouTube channels.
Oh, wow.
Think about that. Millions of subscribers, years of content, gone.
Why would they do that?
I know.
Yeah.
The decision to delete the channels is almost like a digital suicide pact.
Yeah.
It suggests that their personal animosity had just reached this point where they would rather destroy their whole shared legacy than continue working together.
Wow.
So they come to this second agreement. Ken gets to keep the $440,000 that Diarra paid to clear the Tesla loan.
Oh, okay.
And they agree to split any profits from selling their real estate holdings.
Okay.
But then another twist. Diarra finds out later that Ken never gave her half of the Tesla money.
No way.
It just kept getting worse and worse.
Oh my God.
This series of broken agreements and betrayals really speaks to this lack of integrity and respect.
Totally.
It becomes less about business strategy and more about a personal vendetta that's playing out in this financial arena.
Yeah. And remember, they weren't just dealing with their personal finances.
Right.
There was a significant tax liability hanging over their heads.
Oh, yeah.
From the DK4L business.
Yeah.
Diarra ends up paying a large portion of it, while Ken claims he's broke and can't contribute.
And this discrepancy between their financial realities is just so telling. Diarra seems to be prioritizing financial responsibility, while Ken's actions just suggest he's more focused on self-preservation, even at the expense of their shared obligations.
Right.
But here's where the whole, image versus reality theme comes full circle.
Okay.
Ken's social media tells a completely different story.
Oh, really?
Lavish vacations, designer clothes, parties.
What?
It all paints this picture of someone who's far from broke.
Oh my gosh. It's just a stark reminder that social media often presents a curated version of reality.
Yeah.
And in this case, it seems like Ken is leveraging that curated reality to evade accountability while portraying himself as the victim.
Which brings us to the lawsuit itself.
Yeah.
Diarra's not messing around.
What's she doing?
She's going after Ken for breach of fiduciary duty, theft, those unpaid taxes,
Wow.
the whole 9 yards. She's even seeking punitive damages
Oh, wow.
because of his alleged malicious actions.
This lawsuit is essentially the culmination of years of broken trust and financial mismanagement.
Right.
It's a public airing of all their dirty laundry.
Yeah.
And a testament to how deeply personal and business can become entangled when you build a brand on the foundation of a relationship.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
just crazy, right? This whole thing.
It really is.
It's a story that's captivated so many people, and not just because of the influencer angle.
Right.
It taps into these universal themes,
Yeah.
Love and betrayal,
Right.
ambition, and the allure, and also the danger
Yeah.
of a carefully constructed public image.
Absolutely. And what makes this case so compelling is it kind of goes beyond just celebrity gossip.
Yeah.
It forces us to really look at those blurred lines between our online lives and our offline lives,
Right.
the power dynamics in relationships, and just the potential consequences when trust is broken, especially when there's money involved.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the bigger picture here, it raises some really fascinating questions. What does this whole Durara and Ken story tell us about the influencer industry as a whole?
Yeah.
Is this just like an isolated incident, or does it point to like a bigger systemic issue with how influencer couples handle the pressures of building a brand around their relationship?
It's a great question. And, influencer marketing is still pretty new.
Yeah,
And we're only beginning to understand the long-term implications, both for the people involved and for society as a whole.
right.
Duara and Ken's case could be this like watershed moment that forces a much needed conversation about transparency and ethical practices and all the legal complexities of these influencer partnerships.
So we've seen how their carefully crafted image like ultimately backfired,
Yeah.
leading to this very public and messy legal battle.
Right.
So what are the key takeaways here? What can we learn from their
Oh,
experience?
I think the most obvious lesson is just the importance of clear communication and financial transparency in any partnership.
Hmm.
Like whether you're running a multi-million-dollar business or even just splitting expenses with a roommate.
Right.
It's so important to have open and honest conversations about money and roles and responsibilities.
Right. And this case really highlights the need for solid legal agreements, too.
Absolutely.
Like a well-drafted contract can save you a lot of heartache and potential legal battles down the road, especially if things go sour.
And maybe even the most profound takeaway is just the need for authenticity.
Hmm.
Social media can be a super powerful tool for building a brand and connecting with people.
Totally.
But it's important to remember that true success comes from genuine connection and integrity.
Right.
The more you try to maintain this like perfect facade,
Yeah.
the more vulnerable you become when reality inevitably like creeps in.
So after this whole deep dive, what's like the one big question you would want our listeners to walk away pondering?
I think the most important question is how much of what we see online is actually real?
That's a good one.
And how can we be more discerning consumers of information in a world where image is everything?
Right.
Devorah and Ken's story is a cautionary tale, reminding us that the curated world we see online is often just a carefully constructed illusion.
So true.
Yeah.
It's been wild unpacking all of this, but I think we've all learned some valuable stuff along the way.
Yeah.
Transparency, authenticity, clear agreements.
Right.
These aren't just buzzwords. They're essential for building strong relationships,
Yeah.
both personal and professional.
Absolutely. And remember, behind every carefully curated social media post is a real person with their own complexities and vulnerabilities and motivations.
Yeah.
It's something to keep in mind as we navigate this increasingly digital world.
Well said. That's our deep dive into the Durara and Ken saga. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and as always, keep those brains engaged.